Greetings and welcome to another edition of the Big D Podcast. Before I announce today's special guest, please subscribe, like, share to the Spunky Spectrum Sports YouTube page. In 48 hours, a 7-time Olympic medalist will be joining the podcast. I can't tell you her name is, but you'll be. But I hope everybody tunes in to see her. Joining us today is America's race walking couple, Robyn Stevens and Nick Christie. How's California?
That's beautiful.
Oh yeah, it's really nice. I mean, we're up in the mountains, so it's a little cold right now. We got a winter storm coming.
Supposedly, they've been saying
allegedly,
that for like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Thinking so where are you? Where are you? Are you anywhere near the mountains? What?
We're currently training in the Mojave area for some altitude training, but we divide our time between the San Diego and Sacramento area too.
I'm thinking. So would you be close? Would you be closer to Nevada?
No, we're pretty near like Lancaster.
So we're like an hour to 2 hours away from LA. It's probably a 3.5 hour to 4 hour drive to Vegas. Kind of in the middle.
Yeah, like kind of like like for Fort Irwin, like just like in the desert, like out near Lancaster area.
Like in the middle of nowhere, right?
More or less, yeah.
Okay, so for both of you, when did you get your first pair of walking shoes?
I was 14. My youth coach taught everybody who was on her team all the events that are in track and field Olympics. And so she used to have just a car of a whole bunch of shoes that she would collect on discount. And that's how I got mine.
I mean, as far as first walking shoes, probably not until Newfield gave us walking shoes because they're the only walking specific shoes. But the first time I started race walking was in community college at Cuyamaca College in San Diego. So the coach there was a 2-time Olympic race walker, and he had everybody try it out. So then that's when my running shoes turned into walking shoes.
How are race walking shoes different to running or everyday tennis shoes?
The ergonomics and like the pressure points where you're coming down are a little bit different. So where a runner, for example, needs padding is slightly different for race walkers because we're going to be coming down on our heel and then pushing off our toe. So usually before Newfield, race walkers would use shoes that were geared for marathon runners because the padding on the toe is good, but the heel's not so good. Plus we need that roll.
Yeah, so usually you want like a stiffer heel that has some padding because if the heel's too soft, then your knee will kind of buckle when you land with your straight knee.
Wobbling.
Yeah, so you'll wobble a little bit and be unstable. But like the marathon, like road racing flats, like those tended to be the best shoes to wear. Now there's a couple walking specific shoes that are made, and like Newfield, our sponsors, really big onto just like making walking shoes, power walking, Nordic walking, race walking, you name it. And that's kind of where you get more of that push off the toe. And then you get a soft heel that's stiff and firm. So like you don't have that instability. So that's like the hallmark is if you have a very soft heel, then it's not a good walking shoe for race walking anyway.
And with Newfield, they'll even specialize the difference between Nordic walking. So they have Nordic walking specific shoes, race walking specific shoes, urban walking specific shoes, and it's all just studying where the pressure points are and
the kind of the weight of the shoe, the wear of the shoe. Like we'll kind of cut through like the side of our shoe very frequently, so they put like padding on the side because we have a very I don't know what you'd call that gait, but it's a very front and back gait, and like you'll swipe the side of your shoes and cut a hole in like the inner part of the shoe. So like they've put extra padding there, like little things like that.
Yeah, it's like a little
that you
different from running, where the running's going to be on the bottom or right on the top, or the toe might come up, or
because classically, like the marathon road racing flats, like they're only meant for like a few goes, because they're pretty light, not super durable shoes, because they're meant more just for racing. So then we tear through those things, like put holes in the toes, like from walking in them too much, or like put holes in the side from like cutting them while we're walking in our stride. So that's like the big difference, is just having a more durable shoe that's suited for our event.
Plus we have a faster turnover. So there's a lot more wear going down into those soles as well, because we're coming down. We're like, if you think of running, you think of a gazelle striding out. With race walking, you're going to see a shorter stride and quick turnover, like Speedy Gonzalez. So then it's, I'm not a shoe expert, but that's what I'm imagining.
Yeah,
is why they wear down faster.
Because we have to keep, we have to appear to have one foot on the ground at all times to the human eye. Very, very specific wording right there. Appear to have one foot on the ground. The only way to increase our speed is to increase our stride length or to increase our turnover. So then, we'll be going like 200 plus steps per minute, and then, we'll have like a meter 0.3, a meter 0.2 length stride, and then like that'll be like that turnover. You're just going to get a lot of wear from bumping your shoes, because it's going to be similar to kind of like a sprint turnover. But yeah, I think that sums it up.
Do you remember your first race walking event?
Oh, I don't know. My first one. I mean, it might be Oregon. Right after, I think it was right after the Prefontaine Classics, they would always have like a race for the high schoolers, and I did the 3,000 meters for the first time there. And just, yeah, I think that was where she had us do our first big one. Like we would do it in practice and stuff, but our first one was in Oregon after the Prefontaine Classics. I forget what they called it, but I think they still do it. It's like a smaller meet for the high schoolers and youth. And I was a youth walker and was there I did the mile and the 2 mile, and then she threw me in for the 3,000 for the first time. I got second place, and I didn't like that. And so then after that, I made sure to do whatever I could to get faster so that wouldn't happen again. And then it didn't.
So mine, I had actually qualified for the javelin for the community college Southern California championships. And my coach was like, I think you got some potential in race walk, so why don't you come do this race instead this weekend? So then I skipped out on the Southern California championships for the javelin, which was kind of like a surprise for me, because I did more pole vault and stuff before I did race walk, but I qualified out in the javelin somehow. But I skipped out the race, and then I went to do a race walk in Riverside, and it was part of the 15K Nationals, I think. I only did 5K, and I think I walked like 24:14 or something like that. Like, and that was my first race, and then I did a couple more, and like right after that, and they're all like right around that time. But it was that was the only walking I did. Was I just did that race, and then I would not walk, and then my coach would sign me up for another race, and then I would not walk, and then
I feel like it's easier for you to remember because it wasn't as long ago.
Yeah.
For me, I think it was because I would get bored because of all the heats between. The mile would be the first event, and then there's all these heats after heats after heats of the 200s and hurdles, I think is the order. And then it would be the 800, which was an event I would do. And then there would be all these heats after heats after heats after heats after heats after heats until the 2 mile. So I would get really, really bored. And so then I think it was at that race in Oregon where she's just like, well, if you're so bored so that you keep your muscles warm for the 2 mile and the 800, we'll just throw you in the 3,000 meter race walk. But I think that was
I think that's going to be pretty typical for, I think, most people trying race walk, is you either get thrown into it against your will, or you do it because you're trying to do another event, or someone just tells you to do it and says show up, and then you do. So
and why not too?
Yeah,
why not try whatever's there?
So were you always in the race walking? Were you into multiple sports?
I started off as a dancer. I did competitive dancing. When I started, I was 2 dancing, and then I got into competitive dancing. later on in elementary school through junior high, first 2 years of high school. And then I was a soccer player, so I did competitive soccer. But you know, the girls on my team started getting bigger, and I just stayed under 5 foot. So I was still small, 80 pounds. They're all getting bigger. And, you know, you could tell that I probably would have struggled if I wanted to be on a pro team in soccer later on in my life. So that's what I was doing, was dancing and soccer. And then in PE, I would race the boys. So my PE teacher in middle school, Mrs. McCallum, told me about the cross country team. I had never heard of cross country, told me to go out for that. I went out for cross country. From there, that's how I learned about track and field. They sent me to a cross country race though in Dixon. And that's where my youth coach, Claudia Wildy with the West Wind Flyers, saw me. I had beat her boy in the race. And so she came over and just said, hey, you know, have you ever thought about going to the Olympics? And I said, yeah, but that's for like special people, you know, like they get chosen when they're a baby, you know? And she's like, well, if you stick with me, I can get you into any college and probably make an Olympic team. And that was like all I needed to hear, because I grew up watching Nadia Comaneci, like all of her, like I always wanted to be a gymnast, and there was no gymnastics in Vacaville. I grew up in Vacaville. So that's why I was dancing. Dancing was supposed to have tumbling, but that was all they had. They didn't have any of that. We didn't have access to a gymnastics program. So I just, that like for me, it was just like, oh, ticket to, you say any college? I'm the youngest in my family. So I'm thinking, well, what if my parents don't have enough money for me once they're done putting my sister through school? So I was always trying to keep my academics up, but then I wanted all my bases covered. So it's like, if I can get an athletic scholarship too, so whatever, I'll do. Like, okay, you tell me not to drink Coca-Cola, don't go to fast food, done, not going to do it. You say, don't wear these high heels because they're bad on your joints or whatever, done, I'll do it. Like, I'll wear the flat shoes, whatever. Yeah, so then if she says, try race walk, the part of what got me to do it was my parents had said it was getting too expensive with all the sports I was doing, that I had to choose between track and field, soccer, and dance. Dance was the most expensive for the outfits and stuff. So I talked to my dance instructor, and she didn't sound as convincing as my coach, you know, the youth coach, Claudia. So that made it easy, but I was really depressed because I was going to really miss dance. But she took me to the Stanford Invite to see the professional race walking. And when I saw it, when I saw their legs in a row, like Kurt Clausen and all the women go across, like I think it was Kurt Clausen, Philip Dunn at the time, and Al Hepner. And then you see like Susan Armenta. So it's her technique, and Joanne Dow's, and they were all walking together. What's the other one? Debbie Lawrence. They were all walking together. And when I saw them, that their technique is just gorgeous. It reminded me of the chorus line, and which is a dance that Berezhmakov was in that I grew up watching too. And so I thought, okay, I couldn't do gymnastics because there was no program. And they're telling me I need to quit dance. But if I do race walk, I don't have to quit dance, because now it's kind of like interpretive dancing. Race walk's like the interpretive dancing of track and field. So now I don't have to give up either. I can do both. That's how I got into it.
Yeah.
But it was because I was a dancer.
Yeah, I had played other sports beforehand. I'd been doing baseball and football at my high school, and then one of my friends had conned me into doing cross country and track instead. And from there, I ended up going to the community college because I met my pole vault coach, Coach Lyle Barton, and he was like, yeah, come here, you know, try it out for a couple of years, and then you can transfer to a 4-year. You got plenty of time. And then I was pole vaulting, and then the cross country coach, Tim Seaman, who happened to be a 2-time Olympic race walker, was like, hey, I only have 6 guys on my cross country team. Will you run for us? And I saw you ran cross country at some point. I'm like, oh, dude, I don't want to run cross country, man. I hate cross country. I like track. But I was like, fine, like I'll do it, you know,
still
like,
it.
like
so
I'll be the 7th guy. And then I ended up getting on the team, and I ran okay. I think I ended up being like our fourth guy on the team. And but then at the end of the year, he had everybody try out race walking, and it just kind of fit my particular skill set. I'd been like a hurdler and a pole vaulter in high school when I was doing track and field. And then like, I think just the, having played baseball and so many different sports where like, there's just so many technical aspects that are involved. Like, it really fit like my mentality. So then I just started race walking after that. So that was it. So that's how I started.
Interesting, from dancing and baseball to race walking.
Yeah. There's always, I think if you talk to a lot of race walkers, you'll find that there's everyone comes to it in a very different way. Like no one just ends up in race walking from birth. Like
well, at least not in America.
Yeah, like
it happens other places, but in America it's more like,
well, I think even across the world, like usually it'll be from very like a multitude of different sports or backgrounds where you'll get like the race walkers finally finding their way into the sport. So it's quite interesting that way.
Now, there are some differences between walking and running. One is, as you well know, some race walkers can and have been disqualified for various reasons. Can you explain how walkers get like cards, and potentially once they get enough cards, then the official can DQ them from a race?
Yeah, so there are two rules in race walking. You need to have a straight knee upon contact with the ground until it passes underneath the body. So that's the first rule. That's one. Anyone who's been race walking for a while should never break that rule, because it's just it should be like it should be a rare rule, except like at the end of a 50K, because that's when the body just starts breaking down. The technique goes away. Then the second rule is you have to appear to have 1 foot on the ground at all times to the human eye. So appear is important and human eye is important, because if you look at photos and video, like slow-mo video, you'll see race walkers can be kind of off the ground sometimes. There's about like 0.04 seconds where the human eye can detect that contact, and that's about when like a camera, like when you'll see the people off the ground in like a high-speed photo or like or slow motion video, like it'll be because of it's in that small period of time where the human eye can't see it. So that's the human eye, and appear to have 1 foot on the ground at all times. So then there'll be kind of different styles that they'll try to like, that might look lower, appear lower, and you'll see that reflected in like the video and the high speed cameras, where you'll see how far off the ground people are. Like usually Robyn and I are like not off the ground very much when you like take the slow motion video and everything, but almost every race walker will be off the ground at some point. It just won't be in violation of the rule. But we'll have about 9 judges on the course, depending on the type of race. So you have 9 judges on the course, and then usually 3 judges have to be World Athletics certified. So they have to be like top tier judges that have gone through a lot of testing and watched a lot of like video film, like when they do their recertifications and everything, and they're selected by their national governing bodies to like actually be able to take those tests. So they'll have a lot of experience with just seeing race walking. So they'll be quite studied in the event. And those judges will ideally make the event fair and make sure people aren't, getting away with stuff they shouldn't be. And then I think like there's a lot of honor and like there's a lot of like integrity within the event. So like nobody's trying to actively cheat for the most part. Like there are some people who might run the corners or something, but usually they'll get called, and usually like they'll get busted. There's like a race in China that we do every year. It's a 3-day race, and it's kind of scored like the Tour de France, and the judges will usually, like, because the race is point to point rather than being on like a 1 kilometer loop like we typically race.
1 to 2.
Yeah, 1 to 2 kilometer loop is like our typical race course length. This race will be like a point to point course. So like the judges are kind of driven around in little like sidecars, like little motorcycles, and they don't always get to see everybody within the race. So like sometimes there's a lot of cheating in the event, but then the judges, like once they see it, like like if you're flagrantly cheating, you can get disqualified by the chief
but
judge.
that race is pretty unique.
And that
Most
race is
races
very
don't work
unique.
like
Most
that.
races aren't like that, but that is
our competitive like national and international championship races, like the big races, they're going to have 5 to 8 judges, and we're either on the track or on a 1 to 2K loop, and there's constant
you're
watching,
no more than like 100 meters from any given judge, and the judges are always moving around. You don't necessarily know where they're going to be on the race course, and you're being constantly scrutinized. And then again, if someone was flagrantly cheating within the race, like they're going to get a lot of they're going to get comments from their competitors. Like their competitors aren't going to allow them to like get away with that.
But the way it works is you can get 1 red card from each judge. So you can't get more than 1 card from the same judge. So that's why they need 5 to 8, depending on the level of the championship or race. So if you get 3 red cards from 3 different judges, so a red card from 3 different judges, you can be DQ'd unless they implement the penalty box, which was added a few years ago. In that case, if you get a red card from 3 different judges, you can be put in the penalty box. And then depending on the length of the race, so for a 50K, it's 2 minutes.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. For a 20K, it's 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Yeah. So depending on the length of the race, there will be a certain time that's ascribed to the penalty. And that'll be on your 3rd red card. Then your 4th red card, you'll get disqualified.
Yeah.
At our recent championships, they couldn't institute the penalty box. So then it was just 3rd red card and you're out.
Which was the usual rule.
And
until
that's
they had
a
added
typical
the penalty
rule. 3
rule.
red cards and you're out. And that rule has evolved over the time of race walking. It used to be you could only get 1 red card. So there have been certain changes. If you run, like if you were to flagrantly disobey the rules the last 100 meters of the course, if you don't have any red cards, you could get disqualified.
Now they have a judge. It doesn't matter how many red cards you have. If you're illegal the last 100 meters, you're out.
Yeah.
But the penalty box, what that does is you're in that box, that adds time to your total time. So you're in there for 2 minutes for a 20K, 5 minutes for a 50K, however many it is for the 10K. But and then if you don't get caught, if you don't get stopped before if you finish before you're notified of that 3rd red card, then they add that time to your time
to the end of the race.
Which is why there might be. That's why, I don't know if you follow Evan Dunphy, but he's mentioned that it should be like the figure skaters, where
you should just have
you should show us waiting to see our score, because we won't know exactly until the end. Sometimes sometimes they celebrate too early and then it ends up that guy was DQ'd, or you think someone's DQ'd but they're not. So then it's it would be fun to just kind of see that waiting, then oh, okay, cool. Or
so at my first collegiate national championship, my teammate and I, we got just blown away the last 100 meters, and the guy started celebrating like it was he just won nationals. He was super stoked, and we were just kind of sitting back, and then the chief judge came over and said, hey, the guy who just passed you guys, he got disqualified. He was running the last 100 meters. And then, my teammate and I got upgraded to 1st and 2nd. So that does happen. And in the 2000 Olympics, you had an Australian girl, Jane Seville. She was walking into the stadium. She got disqualified in the stadium, in her home Olympics. Then you had,
in Rome,
Bernardo Segura, I think was I think it was Bernardo Segura. He was from Mexico. He was the Olympic champion in the 20K race walk. He's on the phone with the president of Mexico, and then he gets the red card from the chief judge after he had finished the race.
He's on the phone,
getting congratulated by the president of Mexico for winning the race. And then you'll have moments like that at the end of the race, because it takes some time to get the cards in. Sometimes
and that's the biggest difference is in running. You can have the worst technique. You could break down. You could be crawling, but you still get to finish. But if you break down and you don't have the right proper technique in race walking, and you could get all the way almost just like Jane Seville, she gets to the finish. She's just walked in
19.9 kilometers in a 20K race, and she's disqualified.
Yeah, and then she's getting to the winning stretch. She doesn't get to finish because she broke form. Where a runner, you can break form. You can be like this and, stumbling around and stuff, and you can still finish.
It can be especially bad in the 50Ks where, like, you hit that like bonk wall moment
where
and
your
it's like
brain is just kind of discombobulated.
You can't even just regular walk at the end, because if you regular walk, you'll have a bent knee and then you get disqualified. So it's like,
then you get this like Frankenstein.
Yeah, so
that's why you see some people just kind of walking because they're trying to keep their legs straight with everything they can while their electrolytes are all whacked.
Yeah, so it can be quite brutal in that way, like at the end of races, or even with in the beginning of races, and then it dictates kind of how the race is executed. So a lot of race walk races, it's almost like a time trial from the gun, like in a lot of cases. So like people will push the pace early on. You can't wait till like a last minute kick. You can't wait till like so you'll see like 2, 5, 6K out in the race, where you'll get like in a 20K race. So like basically halfway through the race, you'll start to see like the pace really drop, because if you try to do that like last 100 meters, last 200 meter kick, like you could get disqualified with
change your technique.
No calls.
The judges got used to a certain look, how you appear, and then all of a sudden you change your cadence or you change something, it will draw more attention. And then even if you stay legal, it's still, there's just too many questions. So you have to consider like, oh, okay, what's going to draw too much attention, even if you're fine technically. You just don't want to. You can't take those risks like you can in running, where you just want to hammer it down. Like I was a runner first before a race walker. I loved being able to kick at the end. And actually I really liked leading from the beginning. And then I was known to not know how to do the negative split. I had to learn that from Sarah, she was really good at negative splitting in high school, but Sarah Hall, but then college is when it clicked for me that strategy is a smart strategy. But I used to love going out fast. And then I would love finishing fast in running, and prided myself on, I would do the 4x4 to work on my kick in running, so that I could just lay down a really fast last 400 in whatever race I was doing, the mile or the 2 mile. But in race walk, I want to do that, but it's like, oh, no, wait. But, I got to make sure, even though cardio wise, I can go really fast. It's like, but can my legs keep up? Can my race walk technique keep up with how fast cardio wise I can go? And then it's just, you have to do a lot of thinking, so it's like, oh man, I got to think more. Where with running, you kind of check out. If you check out as a race walker, you can put yourself at risk, Yeah.
The technique is very crucial at the end of an event. And that's something you got to be very aware of. And it does dictate like the nature of how the event is, how the event will end, and how you might end up in the event. So, and
another difference is that I had noticed with indoors, for example, if you're not pre-funded going into the race. So for distance runners and for race walkers, at least in California, it's really difficult for us to qualify for indoors, because you have to qualify for pre-funding, because you have to qualify on an indoor track for the pre-funding to be sent to you before you're at indoors. But we don't have any indoor tracks here. And then it's really expensive to get to where they would have the indoor tracks. For race walking, we have to have the correct judges. So it's not just for running, you can just jump on an indoor track and have a race and that's it. For race walking, it's like, okay, we have to have at least the 5 judges. And then so it's not just the track now in indoors. We also have to have the 5 judges. The 5 judges have to all, they're not all from the same area. So then they have to fly in. So it's really hard if you're not already the defending champ. And then you're going in, you're not going to get that pre-funding until you're there. So like in the past, even though I went into indoors 2 years ago, top 3, going into it, I didn't get the pre-funding because the defending champ was Maria Michka at that year. And, but I didn't have an indoor track to qualify for it. So now we're relying on me to get there and then finish the race. And then I'll get the reimbursed funding.
So you get funding based on your placement going in, if you have a qualifying time indoors, and then you get funding leaving the race based on your finish at the race and where you finish.
Right. So the
you
difference between race walk and running, if you get DQ'd,
you're out. Like
you're out.
you lose all the funding.
You don't get the
lose the prize money,
pre-funding.
zero.
You get no money.
Big
You don't
goose egg.
get the prize money. You don't get the pre-funding. You get nothing. There's a little leeway for running in some of the other events.
Yeah. So like
so it's really, it is kind of like a gamble.
Yeah. So like my old coach, Tim Seaman, he was doing, I think it was 2011, the indoor championships. He got DQ'd the last lap of the race. He was the defending champion, and then he's driving home, and then he got pulled over because his rental car had a light out. And then the police officer's going to give him a ticket, and then he just went off on him. He's like, dude, I just lost $6,000. I lost $6,000 because he's from New York. Like $6,000 in like 30 seconds. And like, I went from having money to not having money. Now just give me the ticket. And he was like, he was super upset, but that's just kind of what can happen in the event. Like you can be right there and it looks really good. And then all of a sudden you just see like 3 cards pop up on the board, and then the chief judge walks over to you, gives you the red card, and you're done. And
that's the other difference too, is for race walking, we only have 3 big races where we're going to make money. That's the 50K championships, now 35K for women. And then it's the indoor 3000, so indoor championships. And then it's going to be the 20K outdoor championships for us. Those are the only times we make money. We don't have, like all the other national championships we have, you don't have a prize purse, or if it is, it's like the $50 entry fee. So we're just getting the $50 back for the entry fee that we paid for. So, and then our entry fees are usually higher because there's less race walkers than runners. So then we're paying for, and then we have to pay, we have to help pay for like the judging and all the stuff that goes there. So it really, if we lose out on any race, if we lose any money, that's basically half our livelihood. That's our it's half our salary,
half our expenses
for that whole year.
So that's always really important, is like making sure if you're going into the race,
which also assures,
how do you finish it?
Which also assures that race walkers are not intentionally cheating. We're going to we pride ourselves on being technically 100% sound and fast.
Yeah, so you think that how last year started for you, Robyn? I mean, you won the 20 and 50K and the indoor 3K.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Robyn did, I like to call it the trifecta. I don't know if it's caught on with everybody yet, but, it's our indoor championships, our 20K championships, and our 50K championships. And only a couple people have done it in the history of U.S. race walking, and then men and women included. And Robyn's the only woman to ever have done it. And, that was, she was on track to do it last year too, but
the pandemic,
the pandemic got in the way of the 20K. But that was, that's a huge accomplishment, being able to turn around. Usually what's super cool about it is that our 50K is always like 2 weeks before indoor. So
it's always 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Between.
So Robyn last year came back from crushing the 50K, and then had to turn around and then race all the young kids and all the college kids who are focused on mile 3,000 meter races, and had to go beat them in indoors. So it's like you'll have a lot of people who won't do the 50K, but they'll do like the 20K and indoors. So then if you're doing both the 50K and indoors, and you're able to turn it around like Robyn did, that's something special, because like not a lot of people will even contest both those events.
And I wouldn't have done it without him encouraging, because I used to not take indoors seriously at all.
Yeah.
And then last year he's like, well, I think you could do it. And he's done it before. He's done the trifecta. So I'm like, all right. And then my coach was like, oh yeah, you totally can do it. Like, you recovered fine from the 50K.
Yeah. Like I made her go to Milrose that year so she could like get some practice on the indoor track. And then we hosted.
That was my first mile since I was in high school.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, I want to get familiar with an indoor track. So that's why I was there, just to get familiar with the track.
Then we did another race. We did another indoor race up in Utah up at altitude. So it's like, now you can race at the distance and the environment. And then we did another one. We did a 3,000 meter race before the 50K, just as to get the legs moving, so just get familiar with the 3,000 meter distance and like do all that. And then she just went on a little winning streak where she just kind of crushed everybody. But yeah.
So now this season, I mean, basically the pandemic wiped out everything from March on, from this time onward last year. So let's see, Robyn, you won the 35K, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we
And
had
then Nick, you won the
35K,
50K.
Yeah.
50K.
So, Robyn, we'll see at, later this year, but they should come out with like the new world rankings for the 35K, and with her win there and like her time, she should be, towards the top. So she should have a very strong, she's leading the US women right now for qualifying for Eugene World Champs next year. And then actually in the 20K, as we're gearing up for like our Pan Am trials next, the end of the month, hopefully, and then our Olympic trials 20K like later this year in June. Robyn's going in as the only American in the Olympic quota for the women, and then
Nick is the only American man in the Olympic quota for the 50K currently, and just right there on the cusp of the 20K. And really, all he needs is a 20K. He just hasn't had a race to do it.
Yeah, so we got like some cool stuff coming up, and pretty excited. But that 35K win was really good, and Robyn's like, has been primarily focused on the 20K. So like to just show up and like swamp her competitors with a focus on an entirely different event is really impressive.
I'm actually really curious. I've only done two 50Ks, which was the 2019 championships I won and the 2020 championships I won, and then the 35K last week. Those are the only ones that I've done over 20K because my whole focus is 20K. So I actually am really curious to see what I could do if I were to focus on training for the 50K and the 35K intently. Because right now it's always been, the past several years, it's always just been base building period. So I'm really curious to see, once I mean, my whole focus is the 20K this year and definitely, but as long as if that's the only Olympic event for women, it's always going to be 20K. But I would like to, on one of our off years, that break between Worlds and in Olympics, that 1 year we get off, I would like to try out a 50 and a 35 where I'm just only focused on breaking the American records and seeing how fast I can go in it. Because I've never done that. I've never actually trained to see how fast I can go at those distances because I'm just so focused on the 20.
Yeah, we got to see because, I was thinking about hosting, next year sometime after Eugene Worlds. I want to see if I can get like a 50K event hosted where like, people can go after some big times and like, kind of showcase an event that's been taken out of the Olympics for the men and was never allowed for the women. And that's, so I think that'd be something kind of cool to do, but you got to work on all the logistics for that. And that's always a task, especially right now.
I mean, if the marathon project could happen in Arizona, maybe you need the walking project in one of these areas. Come on, we'll
it's funny you mentioned that because after the marathon, so he participated in the marathon project.
Oh yeah, I was on team Danny Doherty. I think I was trying to put in miles for his.
He was race walking the miles,
group, yeah.
But he
it was in the middle of my 50K build.
But after that, when we were trying to figure out how to get to this 50K, 35K championships, because for a while we thought San Diego was in the purple tier, so we weren't sure if we were going to be able to keep it in San Diego. And then we were looking for a new location for the Pan Am Cup trials because the original location was too close to a nursing home. So after the success of the marathon project, that course looked phenomenal and perfect for race walking, completely flat. It's already been measured. We would need it to be a 1K or 2K because of the rules. It has to be between 1K, 2K loop. But I actually wanted to reach out to the organizers for that and see if they would host one for race walking because it's the perfect course. It was a success. It was fun to watch. It was fun to follow along.
Yeah, so we'll have to see, that looks like something to look into in the future.
Yeah.
So how would it feel if one of both of you won medals in Tokyo?
Oh, wow.
That'd be pretty cool. I mean, we got like I got a lot of work to do on that end. So that'll be up to Robyn.
And we both,
But
it's not out of the question, but we both have work to do.
yeah, a lot of work to do. So
I feel like I have the right coach for it, but it would take some work.
yeah, so that's all I can really say on that is I'm fighting for the Olympic spot right now, not necessarily for a medal at the moment.
I'm fighting for the certificate, the top 8 certificate, and then if everything goes right and I get on that podium, then that's just going to be the added sparkle.
Icing on the cake.
But I'm going to be really happy with this if I can come home with the certificate.
If you finish top 8, you get like an Olympic diploma. So
if you want the participation, if you like the Olympic equivalent of the participation trophy, you got an elementary in your
only the top 8.
Only the top 8 get it.
So if you don't place in the top 8, you don't get the certificate.
Yeah, you just get the experience of being there.
So and then if we even manage to get top 8, we will be the highest placing U.S. walkers at the Olympics other than Larry Young.
Yeah, I mean, there's like it's been quite a there haven't been a lot of U.S. walkers finish in the top like recently, and on the women's side, I'm trying to think the best finish. Yeah, it's
5, 28.
Yeah, so it hasn't been a huge finish. We did have in the Intercalary Games in 1906. There was like George Bonham or something like that. He won the 1,500 meter race walk, and then he went on to compete in the exhibition baseball game in the 1912 Olympics. So he had a kind of interesting career, and he ran the 3-mile race and medaled in that. And then I think he won a medal in the cross country team race. So like that was the only gold medal by an Olympic race walker.
Larry Young did.
No, Larry Young has 2 Olympic bronze medals. So Larry Young was he got bronze in the 50K in 1968 in Mexico City, and then he got bronze in the 50K in Munich in 1972. So he was he's our most decorated Olympic walker. And then Kurt Clausen on the men's side has our only world championship medal. He was 3rd in Seville in 1999, and that was in the 50K. So we've had we got some work to do, and we had like a period of time in like the mid 2000s, like especially on the men's side, where like we just didn't have men transition over from like the junior level or the college level to the open level. And then myself and a few other guys, Manuel Corvera and a couple people have been kind of slowly bringing that back up, but we kind of had to go like once all the older guys retired, we've been kind of stuck by ourselves trying to bring it back up. So
plus then with like the doping being a problem, once we can get all those weeded out, we'll see who the real top tiered athletes truly are. But I think there's still some weeding out being done.
Yeah, and there's a lot of changes in store too. So like there's we're talking about the technique stuff, but they're actually developing like a kind of like a shoe insole or something that would measure the flight time and then give calls electronically. It's still in development, and that'll be a big change to the race walking events. And maybe it'll get race walking more into like indoors or Diamond League events more readily because of the
it's like combining
the judging.
It won't be the super shoe. It'd be like the super judge.
It'd be the super judge. Yeah.
It won't be the Vaporfly. It may be the Vapor Judge.
Yeah. So Vapor Judge.
so that's in development. But if that happens, like you could see a big shakeup in the athletes finishing at the top, because it would certainly change the time. So like we'll see, where they set the threshold at of when someone's called for a flight violation and lifting violation. So like if that happens, like who knows what walking could look like, or what it could turn into, what the records could be, or the feasibility of even breaking a record. So it would certainly add a lot of flavor and
Well, just
you
be
know
a new-
different. It would just be a new event,
a
like
new
almost.
record set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, little bit of spice is always welcome, and whether it's 1,500, 3K indoor, or 50K, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you for hopping on the podcast, and we wish you all the best on your road to Eugene and hopefully Tokyo.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
so much
having
for
us.
having us, Dylan.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.